Okay, I think we're recording. So hello, my name is Hannah. I'm an independent demonstrator of Stampin' Up! From Hannah Crafted Gifts, and this is my partner.
Renee Ewert from Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator also.
And today we're going to be showing you a picnic table card, so to speak. And so this was the original design that I did. And you can see, if you look closely, it says, "Cake is the answer." And when you lift it up, it says, "Who cares what the question is?" So you can see it actually ends up being like a table with the cakes set up on the table. And if you look really closely, you can see there's actually wood grain embossing here on like the bench, as well as under the tablecloth, so to speak. So that's where we started. Renee did a original design as well. Do you want to show that one, Renee?
Yeah, sure. So here is mine. And what I did is I used the cake and the DSP from Woven Threads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like this. It's a wedding cake. And so here again, you have the embossed, the embossing. Sorry.
The coastal
The embossing.
weave, right?
Yeah, it's the coastal weave. It's the coastal weave. I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that card.
And I should have mentioned I used the Magnolia Lane DSP. I think a more simple DSP is a good background for this, that your cakes really stand out as the centerpiece, literally and figuratively. But I love what Renee did. If you could hold your card up again, Renee, she had the idea for us to add the lace runner, which mine doesn't have. My next one will. But you can see hers has that lace runner. That's from the Delicate Lace, getting the name here, Delicate Lace Edgelet dies. And so I love that addition, my friend. And when you open it up, there's space on the inside for a message. So that's what we're going to be creating today. So yours already got a message. That's right. Mine was just blank for your own. So we're going to start with our base. So I'm using the same soft suede with the Pinewood Planks embossing folder. And I've gone ahead and done the entire card front with that embossing folder, as well as the first just 1.5 inches or so on the inside flap. And just so you know the dimensions for this, it's a standard card base. So you'd cut your paper 8.5 by 5.5, and then you'd fold it in half at 4.25. But you also score the front at 3/4, 1.5, and 3.5. And that's what allows you to create your table. So Renee, do you still have the Sahara sand with the coastal weave?
Yes, and so mine's already been creased, the dimensions as she gave you, so that is the coastal weave. Looks real nice. Both of them look great, don't they?
I agree.
Perfect for a wedding.
I love the wicker. All right, so I'm going to put my camera down because I did not fold mine yet, so I'll get that going. The next step, which Renee can go ahead and move on to, is adhering the DSP. And there is a trick with that. So when you put your glue on the DSP and put it on your card front, you want to pretty quickly and gently fold on those score lines, which I'm about to fold on my cardstock, because you want the paper to be able to bend. If you just glue it in place and then try to bend it later, it will likely tear.
Hannah, I did something a little different because I always have so much trouble with when we put on the DSP and then fold. So what I did, I will tell you what I did. I went ahead and measured exactly where I wanted my DSP at the top. Mm-hmm. And then I marked with the pencil where the score lines were. Mm-hmm. And then I went over to my scoring tool and scored the DSP. So what this means though,
You certainly could do that. That's a good tip.
Yeah, but so what I would suggest if you do that is that you fold this like I'm folding now, fold it closed, and then glue the top first, and then glue the rest of it. That'll make it easier for you. So this is what I would do for mine, because I want to make sure that I don't get that crease. It's just me. I have a hard time with it. So I had to solve that problem for myself.
Yeah.
So that
different ways to do it.
Yes.
I just want to make it. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It is a little bit extra work at that front end, but for me, it promises that I will have a good crease.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I was having always. So then I can do the rest.
Good.
Go ahead.
And I just wanted to make a quick note that you are doing, if this is your front flap, if you're looking at mine, you're doing, this is not for Renee, I know she knows what to do, but for the rest of y'all who might be watching and making along, you do a mountain fold on that first score line, a mountain fold on that second score line, and then the last score line at the end of your paper, that 3/4 inch one, that's a valley fold. And that way it will become your table. So I just wanted to show that quickly. Also for my DSP, I added an extra step this time. So like I said, on the first card, I did not have lace, but this time I'm going to have this little lace edge. And so I actually had to cut my DSP. Normally your DSP would be 4 by 5 1/4. So that way it was a 1/4 inch shorter than your card front. But if you're doing the trim like I am, then it would actually be 3.5 by 5 1/4, because your trim would be about 5/8 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to add that to one end of my DSP before I adhere it. So this will take me a little longer. So Renee, you'll probably take over at some point here, but I know you
Okay,
can.
and so with that lace, that delicate lace, I'm going to go ahead and put that on the top, and I'm just going to center it onto that DSP, and I use the same woven threads but the other side, so it works so well together. It's a much a plainer side, a little bit of a denim kind of look with the crumb cake and that reddish color. So it's real pretty. It all blends, everything blends together really well, as we all know that Stampin' Up! Does. And so I'm just going to go ahead and glue this.
And I realized we were remiss to mention the set that inspired this whole project today, and that is the piece of cake stamp set. So we talked about how the cakes are your centerpiece of this card, and that's because we really wanted to highlight this set. It is retiring at the end of this catalog year, which is June 2nd, or while supplies last. So I know stamp sets are guaranteed to last a little longer than other items in the catalog, but you still want to get this if you haven't yet while you can. I believe it's actually on sale. As well as the coordinating punch, which Renee has, so she can show that when she gets a chance. But
yes,
it's a versatile set. We wanted to show it off.
Yeah, so here's that lace going on top of that tabletop. So you can see that, how beautiful that is. That nice lace tabletop, just like that. It really works out well. It really works out well. And so we glued that on. So we are using, as she said, the piece of cake stamp set. And here is the punch. It's a wonderful punch. And what you do is simply take your paper and you can punch them both out at the same time. Now, I'm a person who loves the Stamparatus. So I can punch out whatever I want and then use the Stamparatus to go ahead and stamp the cutout. And well, are you still working, Hannah?
Yes,
so,
that's okay.
Well, Hannah's working. Well, that's perfect, Hannah.
Just hearing
I can show them this, because this takes a little longer, so I can show them this.
And I won't be long. I'm almost done.
Not a problem. So here's our Stamparatus. And I just moved that a little bit, so I'm going to have to recenter. That's all right. So with the Stamparatus, you go ahead and you place your cake down like so. And then I'm going to place my cake stand. You can see how it cuts it out, how that punch is wonderful. And then I'm going to put my cake plate down, also centering it. Goes right into that center. And then I'm going to close that up. Catch that. Catch that. Then once that's caught, this is going to go up in here. And I'm going to show you while she's working if that's okay. Is there anything else we should say before I show them this, what I do?
No, I'm starting to stamp as well. I'm not using the Stamparatus, so I'll just go ahead and do regular stamping while you show them that technique.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, what you want, I want my flowers a different color than my cake. And I'm going to use crumb cake. And as you can see here, I'm going to use this wonderful Stampin' Right, which is great. I'm going to put some light on. Sorry, guys, I have to see. And what I do is I'm first going to color the outside of the cake in one color.
While you're showing that, can I just say one thing about what I'm stamping here?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead.
So, of course, you can stamp right on Whisper White, which I did for my cake. And I'm using soft suede to match my base. You can also stamp on DSP. So I have this Pressed Petals DSP that's the wood grain. And so that's what I've used to make my cake stand. So that's another option. Back to you, Renee.
Yeah, I was having a little bit of issue there, so I had to wipe it off. So
no worries.
So I'm going to do that like this, right, guys? On the outside. Get that crumb cake all on the outside. And the wonderful thing about the Stamparatus, and then, is that if it didn't work, I can go back. I am going to take now my Poppy Parade. Love that Poppy Parade. And now I'm going to go over my flowers. This is what makes this Stamparatus for me a jewel, because I can go ahead and do this right off the bat and have no problem. I also wanted to do this little set of flowers here, which I can go ahead and stamp right here. And I can put that down. So I can put this down. And the good news is if my brown doesn't come out strong enough, I'll just go back over it. And I can see that I might want to a little bit right here. And right here.
Well, and if it didn't come out strong enough when you stamped, is that what you're talking about? How you can just go stamp again? Yeah, that's my favorite thing about the Stamparatus.
Yeah, it's just, it works so well. And you know, you see it's perfect now, so that makes me happy. And then with the red, I'm going to do a little bit more red here on those flowers. I see they could be a little darker too. Some of those flowers could.
And I actually used
do that.
The Stampin' Right markers as well. I used Petal Pink because I had pre-stamped and fussy cut, because I don't have the punch, sadly. That's why I'm fussy cutting over here. But I had done a cake on Petal Pink. So I did the monochromatic effect where I used the Petal Pink ink to stamp my cake on Petal Pink cardstock. But then I used this Petal Pink Stampin' Right marker to color in some of the little decorations on the cake. So those markers come in handy for a lot of different things.
Yes, they are wonderful. They are absolutely wonderful. I'm going to just do a little bit right here. You see right there. See how that works. Right there. And that should do the trick. That should do the trick. All right. So now we have our cake. And I'm going to do the stand.
What color did you do the stand in, Renee?
What's that?
What color did you do the stand in?
I'm going to do the stand in crumb cake.
Okay.
I am going to do the stand in crumb cake. I'm taking a little longer than I want to, but sorry about that, guys. You can fast forward through this if you need to. But I do have to do the stand. And so I gotta make sure.
Soft suede again. I think I know, some people like lots of color. I personally like to do kind of a simple color profile on cards where I choose a few and then just stay with them. Or if you are going to use lots of colors, a great option is to choose a color family, although it can be fun to match from like the regals to the subtles to the brights. But if you choose one color family, everything's going to coordinate really well. Stampin' Up! Also has a color coach, which shows you some more unique color combinations. So that's something you can ask for through your demonstrator or through us if you don't have a demonstrator.
Yeah. Well, yes. And so this is really nice, exactly what Hannah said. So I can look at the colors that are in the set. So when you look at woven threads, you have crumb cake, You have the blues, which is Seaside Spray, I believe.
I think you're right.
And you have some Rococo Rose. And so you can use all those colors together to make that happen for you and make it all coordinate and not, not distract from the flow of things. I am the person who is a little more ornate on things, a little busier, as my husband will say. He'll tell me to stop at some point.
Sometimes we need that. I need it too sometimes when enough is enough.
Yes. And so here what I did is for the cake, I did take, now again, guys, these Stampin' blends, let me tell you, they are not going to be selling the lights by themselves. And if you have the Stampin' Rights, are actually the dark of the color of the blend. So you only have to buy one for $4.51. I think that's a great steal. So I did my cake in that blue.
Yeah, I don't think the markers and the blends necessarily blend together, but you'll still get the light effect, which is such a great tip. And you just did a video on that, I think, so people can check that out if they want to learn more about that technique. I've got my other cakes prepped. So I showed you my petal pink cake. I also stamped with the Whisper White craft ink on soft suede. So they got like a chocolate cake with vanilla icing, unlike my, I guess this is also a chocolate cake, come to think of it, but they end up looking quite opposite color-wise, which I like, kind of brown on white and white on brown. And this I actually had to use the re-ink refill for the craft ink, and I just put a dot of that into like a little paint palette and used a paintbrush to color in the drips that the stamp gave me. So I've got all three of my cakes. I had already prepped my other two stands, so now I've got my third one of those. Although I did have one other thing I wanted to do, and that is on the back of my stands, you can see the back side of that DSP is kind of a floral, but instead I want to see the wood, because when the cakes do stand up, you do see the tops of the stand. So that's just a little extra step you don't necessarily have to do, but me being me, I wanted to do that. So I am going to add this strip of the wood along just the part of the stand that we'll show, which is that top plate part.
The other thing is a lot of people say they can't use the tip of the Stampin' Right, the small tip. Well, I typically do.
Great for
and that's for this, yes, that's for this fine-tuned coloring. And it really works out well. So here you're going to have my flowers.
I would just say if you're coloring onto a stamp like you were at first, the paintbrush side is best, but certainly for coloring in like you are now, that tip is great.
Exactly. And I use my tips a lot because of this. And I don't want to be honest, I don't want it to color it all the way in. You'll see there's some white, and that's just so that you can see the detail or the detail of the flower, so you don't lose the flower completely here. So you'll see it's a little bit white in between. All right, so and then what I did have is this, which I would fussy cut out and then place on top of my cake, which I did on my other one. And again, when you fussy cut, always go to the edge, the back edge of your scissors, and then move your paper. Took me a while to figure that out. I always thought the tip was better.
While you're doing that, Renee, I'm stamping my inside piece with my sentiment. I'm glad I remembered to do this before I glued it in place, because this gives me the option, if it doesn't turn out well, to flip it over and try again, which I often need to do. So I am stamping for this card a different sentiment. That first one, remember, was the kind of cheeky, cake is the answer, who cares what the question is. This one is, hope this year is a piece of cake, enjoy every crumb. And I felt like this one was kind of tough to do right now, honestly. I don't think this year is much of a piece of cake for most people. but maybe when things get better, it can still be a good sentiment to share.
It's still a good sentiment. It brings cheer.
Good. Well, good.
Still a good sentiment.
And part of the reason I'm doing it is because instead of using the two-part sentiment on the outside of my card to hold it together, which, by the way, I use the everyday label punch to put my sentiment on and just cut it in half, which I felt like kind of showed like something's starting and here it is, it finishes and kind of comes together. I feel like it kind of draws your eye across the card. But this time I decided to do plates. This is a picnic table after all, with little crumbs left on them, like someone's been eating the cake. So actually, and this is something, I'm going off script, Renee. I had this idea in my head.
That's okay.
Work. I might ruin it and have to restamp and re-fussy cut. But I figure if people have eaten cake, there needs to be a sign of that, right? So I'm going to try to cut off a piece of this cake. We're going to see how.
Oh, from your stamp?
Yep, to make
from
it look like someone has dug in.
Oh my goodness.
I know. We'll see how it works. I'm hopeful, and if not, that's okay. We'll just, like I said, stamp again. If I had the punch, it'd be quick and easy. All right. I think that's actually okay. Look, someone has a cake.
Look at there. Let me see. I have to look it up. Oh, looky there. How perfect.
I think that might work. Really good try. I will say crumbs are coming from another stamp set. This is a little bit of a cheat. This is from the Happy Birthday to You stamp set, which was part of Celebration. So speaking of getting things before they're gone, this is already gone. But I wanted to use this crumb stamp. If you don't have that stamp set, though, a great alternative is you could just use the Stampin' Write marker. Here's my soft suede. Use that marker tip like Renee was talking about. I'm just going to do it on my scrap paper. You just create little random dots, and you get a very similar effect to that stamp. So hopefully you can see that there. I'll hold it up just in case you can't move all this stuff off. But yeah, I kept playing with it. I think it ended up being right there. Let it catch the light. I think it would end up being quite similar. So there you go, just an alternative.
Okay, so I did color this one in, and I'm going to turn this off now that I can see, so you can see better. So I did color this one in, the flowers. I did not color the top in, but here are the cake. I glued it together from the back. I have decided that a lot of times when we make the cards, that I want the back side to look good. So I did cut out, I did punch out, I don't have to cut it out, I punched it out, which is delightful. I punched out a little piece of blank cake, and I am going to simply glue it on top. And that's because I just don't want to see what I glued back here, because this is how I glued it. And I don't want them to see the back of that ever. So I'm,
I love that. I did that on another card the other day, which maybe I'll show another time with these cakes. But I did that where I did actually stamped both cakes and just glued back to back. And no one's even going to notice that, but I care about it. So I really care that you're doing that right now.
Yes, it bothered me always that the backs are like, well, that's not going to work. That doesn't look good. And so I feel that, and I did think about stamping the back as well, but this will be fine. This is a lot better for the look of the back of your card, since we are putting it at the front. You can see the back, and so you don't want to see that kind of a back. All right, especially when you color with the blends, it goes right through. So, so the thing here that we have is all of this is glued on. My strip is a little bit thinner than Henna's, and that's just because of how I am doing it. My sentiment is from the heirloom sentiments. Those are going. I really suggest the woven heirlooms. I really suggest that this is a beautiful, beautiful set to get.
I think that was the
comes
first thing
in
you bought
handy.
from the current catalog, Renee.
Huh?
I think that was one of the first things you bought from the current catalog, wasn't it?
It was. So was not only was this, but the Woven Threads DSP
Yeah, and
was also
thread,
the
you got the
first.
whole suite, I think.
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I even got, which I will tell you, folks, is definitely worth it. I got the sequins that came with that. And if those sequins exist, they are so user-friendly for so many different things because of the colors that are in them. I just love them.
It's all the
So there's
2019 to 2021 in colors, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting dimensionals on the back of my plates. And this is especially important for whatever's going to go on your bench, so to speak, that's going to keep your table propped up. That needs to be on dimensionals so this little edge of the card front can slip under there. You can
so you doing that, you putting your front piece so it doesn't slip?
Right, so that, whatever's
okay.
whether it's a sentiment or a plate, or I think in Renee's case, it's going to be some fussy cut items she'll tell us about in a second. Those things need to be on dimensionals so that it can catch the edge, or at least that's what I found to work best.
Right. And so what I do is I like this box to stand up as straight as possible, okay, so that table looks correct and would be able to even stand up this way if you like. All right. But so I put actually the dimensional on first, and then I put it real snug right up to that line like that. And then I fussy cut out the flowers and the bird from Bird Ballad Suite, which again is going, besides the woven thread, the Bird Ballad Suite is wonderful. Now the set is staying. So if the stamp set stays, these flowers and these birds go with that set. So it's worth getting that DSP. And so now that my dimensional is already set on there, I can place my flower any way I like.
That's a good idea.
Because that's really what I want foremost, is that was there. And so then I know that I am good with exactly where that goes. And of course, you haven't put your cake on yet, have you?
Not yet. You probably could do this in any order, but I decided to do my
tabletop. You did your tabletop, right, first?
To make it stand up, you mean?
No, your plates. Did you put your plates on?
Yeah, that's what I'm working on now.
Okay, so I'm going to put, I actually am going to go ahead. I cut out the bird and I cut out some flowers, some more, and I'm going to put that on this side. All right, so that here what you've got then is you've got the flowers at the bottom and the bird and the flowers at the top corner. All right, and then the cake comes up here. I pretty much left the rest of this open. If you wanted to, you could put maybe the bird here and some flowers over there to make it equal, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary that it always, since this carries over, I don't think you have to fill this in. You can, though, if you like. You could go ahead and put a Mr. and Mrs. right up here. It's part of the wedding cake. It's a gift card. So you can go ahead and, or the card goes with the gift. So you could go ahead and put Mr. and Mrs. up there if that you would like. You could do it in
circle punch for that, right, Renee? The 1-inch circle punch, which is also what I
use. Yes, the 1 1/4, which is not going to be there anymore. This is the 1 1/4.
Will be. So you used
1 1/2.
I used 1 inch. So those are worth getting now while you can too. I just wanted to say real quick, I have glued my first cake, and some key points here. You only want to glue from below the top plate down. if you want your cakes to kind of be set on the table,
Right.
so that they pop up once your card goes into tabletop mode. And then you just decide where you want them placed. I kind of wanted mine centered. And I'm going to line up the bottom of that plate basically with my crease. So you're gluing between the first fold and the second fold with the bottom of that plate kind of on the crease of the second fold. So that way the plate and the cake are what pop up, and the stand is what's holding it in place. Can you see that? Right. The light makes it a little hard, but yeah, hopefully you can see that.
And I just used an edge of a dimensional so that I could do the whole stand. I think the whole stand is going to make it on there. I just measured. So the whole stand makes it on there. And I too am going to use the middle. So I too am going to go ahead and use the middle of this. Card. Like that.
You could really simplify our designs and make this an even easier card to make, because the table mechanism itself is quite easy.
I'm going to put I'm pretty much have my cake there. And so I'm going to put my bird on. And my flowers as well. I am pretty much going to go ahead and put everything on dimensionals with this one.
Okay, so is your cake stand on dimensionals as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It actually is. I forgot. We had not, that first one, we had not done that. Actually, that's right.
That's okay. It's interesting to see how that works. I bet it'll work well. So there's mine. So I absolutely love Renee's suggestion of using those delicate lace edge loop dies. I love the lace on this bottom edge of my table. So there it is closed. You can see someone started eating the cake. There's their plate with the crumbs. And then it props up with 2 more plates sitting on the bench. There's the tabletop. And then when you open it up on the inside, it says, hope this year is a piece of cake. Enjoy every crumb. How's yours coming along, Renee?
It is. I decided to put the Mr. and Mrs. at the top. Again, I'm going to use a dimensional. I am going to go ahead and do it this way. There that is.
Beautiful.
I can't see as well as Hannah sees me, so that's why I ask her where she is. I listen and work, but I'm not very sure because we do work in a different place. This could also be a plate. If you wanted that to be a plate, and then you could put the breadcrumbs, that too could be easily a plate if someone would like for a piece of cake. And then you could put your breadcrumbs on, or you could put it as a cake and have the Mr. and Mrs. on top, still as a cake if you like, as a plate if you like. I do love her idea about cutting it and being so bold to cut it right here and now.
Thanks. Why don't you tilt your screen up, and that way you can see mine? And
yes, that would be pleasurable. Oh yes, you see, look at that. Look at that. Could you put that closer to the
this is
you see? Look at that, all the cakes with the crumbs. Yes.
Hold yours up too. We'll get a shot of all of them from today.
So there's this one. All right. I don't know how you got both of them on there. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try and do that. Let's see if I can. I have to go at a distance.
Yes,
There
I
you
can see that.
go.
Lovely.
There you go. Now I did use the little cakes on the side, and I did the little embroidering on top, like so. But these are basically them. There they are. They're so cute.
Lovely.
I don't know how. Oh, there it is. There it is. There you go. Now I'm far enough away where you could say, yeah, there you go.
So thank you so much, as always, for watching along with us today. We're so glad that we can continue to do this virtually while we can't be together side by side. But we're so glad that you're staying with us. You can see all of the dimensions and instructions and product lists in our descriptions below. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you aren't already to our channels. All right, thanks so much for watching. As always, happy crafting.
Happy crafting, everybody. Have a great day.